Andrew Tokely, yes, horticultural director up at Kings of Kelvedon. I got it right, didn't I?
That's right.
Now, you've got a lovely backcloth of sweet peas. Kings are well known for sweet peas. I mean, that's their sort of, I suppose, their sort of signature seed, isn't it?
It relates back to when E.W. King, our founder, he loved sweet peas. He always used to walk around with a sweet pea in his lapel, and he loved all the different sweet peas that we grow. So yeah, we probably maintain still too many varieties, probably over 60, 70 varieties we maintain now. And obviously we're known for our mix that we grow here on the farm as well, which we put all the different colours together and then we sow it out as a mix and harvest that from the farm.
Now, just looking at these, I mean, just going in on them, I mean, they are an absolute picture, aren't they?
They are. They're a picture, and what you've also got to think is, you know, direct sown, not done anything, and you've got a stem there, over a foot tall, you know. So I mean, and good quality blooms at that, and a nice mixture of colours.
Now, just touching on sweet peas as we are, if you were growing those at home, it's really important to keep taking the flower, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So if you were growing them at home, you would keep taking the flowers off as and when, keep regularly picking them, because if you don't keep them picked and you let them go to seed, obviously they then stop growing. And obviously if you were growing these at home, you'd grow them up some form of a support and they'd get over 6 feet tall, where these, we don't want them to worry about the flower, although we get nice long stems. The first one, we want them to flower, we want them to seed, because we want to harvest the crop. So, you know, these will keep going until, well, certainly until the end of June, middle of July, and then we'll put the combine over them probably around about end of July, early August.
Now, I'm just looking in here, I'm just saying, oh, look, there's a lovely poppy in there, and over the other side we got, what's that growing in a bit over there?
There's a little bit of yellow, which is a little bit of charlock, they call it around here, which is like a mustard. It's a type of mustard. It looks a bit like rape, but it's a type of mustard. And it's nothing to worry about, because it's just a weed that you get in. Obviously, when you get a crop like this, you can't get in it to weed. So because sweet pea seed, as you know, is quite large, poppy seed is very, very small, and we can clean that out at the time. So there's nothing to worry about at all with that.
Now, Andrew, you know, I've just picked on poppy, and we've said there's a bit of weed, but I mean, we're all going weedy, aren't we? I mean, Chelsea was a good example of, if you were a person...
You might be, Ken, I'm not.
You know, it's either a weed or it's a wild flower. There's not a lot between them, because it's what one chooses to be a weed, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I mean, I'm all for wildflowers and people having a wildflower meadow in the right situation. If you've got a big garden, you know, and I'm talking big, sort of half an acre sort of job, and you want to put a part of it down as a wildflower meadow, which we often get customers ring up and say, I've got this area and I want to make a... But in that sort of situation is fine, but to have it in the actual garden, in a small garden, I don't think it looks right, in my opinion, but it looks a mess.
And you're the man who's selling the seed.
I know.
Is it popular?
It is, yeah. I mean, a lot of people grow wildflowers. We sell a lot of mixtures. What people don't understand is they'll come and they say, I want to grow wildflowers, and they want 100% wildflower seed. And you say, well, what are you doing with it? Oh, well, I've got this bit of grass and I want to make it into a wildflower meadow. So we can't just sow the seed into the grass. And I said, why can't I? So, well, it needs to be exposed to the soil. So you've either got to harrow the grass or scarify it first so you can expose some soil, then sow your seed into it. Or you get rid of all that grass and you buy a mix, which is, we call it 80-20 mix. So it's 80% grass, 20% wildflower. And then you sow the whole lot together. And that way you get a proper meadow, because the grasses then are meadow grasses. But a lot of people are trying to cut corners, if you like, and they just want to put and you want to buy the 100% seed. And there's no point buying 100% seed really and sowing just the seed, because the grasses help nurse the actual wildflowers when they're starting to grow. So you've got to grow the two in harmony together. I mean, often people will buy, say, some wildflower. They've had a meadow, they get a patch which is a little bit patchy, and then they'll scarify that area and put it in. And the other thing that they have to remember is, once it's finished flowering, you've got to leave it there until the autumn, so it starts to shed its seed.
Looks untidy.
Looks untidy. You cut it down, you leave it laying on the ground for at least 2-3 weeks at minimum. Probably a month would be better. Then you clear up all your mess, because you've got to allow the time for the seed to shed back onto the ground to come up, so you've got your wildflower meadow the next year.
Because what lots of people forget is a lot of what we see in the hedgerow is actual annuals.
That is.
Just as you would buy a annual geranium or a lobelia. There's no difference, is there?
No, it's not. And the best, if you wanted a wildflower meadow and you wanted to sow one, and you would say, the ideal time is you're either sowing in August, September, or you're sowing March, April, May. After that, you're pushing it. If you pushed it into June, you would then have to sow just purely annuals. And what a lot of people say, well, I want a wildflower meadow and I want some perennials in it, I want everything. And you say, well, the first year you're not going to get anything to flower. There's no flower. Oh, well, not unless you sow it in the autumn, the previous autumn. Then you'll get a bit of flower. If you want colour the first year, then you've got to grow the annuals. So what we would say, what we call cornfield annuals. So you've got your corn cockle, your corn marigold, corn chamomile, poppy,
cornflower, all that
poppy, cornflower. So they all flower in the first, and they look very, very attractive. But again, they will, although they're annuals, they'll come up again the next year, provided you let them all go to seed and drop the seed and come back.
Now, as a seedsman, you must look to the future,
Yeah.
year on year on year, because you're trying to access seed in a real. So, because people like Chelsea Flower Show and the gardening programs on the TV are promoting, do you see it going bigger and bigger and bigger, this wildflower thing?
I don't see it going bigger and bigger, because the biggest problem with wildflower is the actual sourcing of the material. Because obviously it's wildflower seed, although there are farms that grow wildflower seed, there's only so much you can harvest. And it's all grown outside, it's all subject to the elements. And what people don't realise is they think, oh, I'll grow a wildflower meadow. Wildflowers are quite expensive.
The seed is expensive.
Seed is expensive. It's not something that's cheap, which they think it is, because it's a wildflower. They're actually very, very expensive to get hold of. So in comparison to growing your normal bedding plants and normal plants that you'd have in the garden, they're probably better value than the wildflowers. But if that's what people want, I can understand it. You want the wildflowers, bring in the wildlife, but I think there's a market for both.